Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are going to review some manga. So we're going to review volumes 1 and 2 of Komi Can't Communicate. Now, before we do that, I want to ask you guys to please like and subscribe if you guys like my content, or if you just want to get notifications on when I upload new videos. And yeah, if you guys like the video, that'd be great. If we could hit 10 likes on this video, which is a tiny amount, but it's a good starting point, I think. And if you subscribe, please help me reach 50 subscribers by the end of the month. It'd be really awesome, and I would really appreciate it. And yeah, quick shout out to the Otaku Dadcast channel, run by Otaku Mike and by Jin Graves. They want to get to 100 subscribers, so if you guys could go subscribe to them as well, that'd be awesome. And to Dender for having me on his live stream this past Saturday. And yeah, so before we really get into it, I'm going to tell you how I do my reviews, although at this point, maybe it's unnecessary. Let me know in the comments if I should continue to explain or if I shouldn't. So I look at 5 things. I look at characters. I look at plot. I look at characters, world building, art, and fan service. The first 3 are relevant because they're the closest I can get to being objective on a story, and the art is a purely subjective matter, where I really just give my opinion. But for things like manga, it's actually rather important that it has good art, because a great story with really shitty art might not be the most enjoyable thing to read if you're reading manga or comic books. And the fan service thing is really just more of a warning for people in case they don't want to see stuff like that on their in the books they read. And that's basically it. So, Komi Can't Communicate. I'm going to do both volumes at the same time. And then I'll do 4 and 5. Not 4 and 5. 3 and 4 for Wednesday's video. And then 4 and 5 for Friday's video. And then that'll round out all the volumes I have of Komi-san. Yeah. Thanks to my friend for lending them to me. Once again. And yeah, so the premise here is this girl suffers from really severe anxiety. She's this super crazy introvert, literally can't speak. If anyone talks to her, she starts to tremble and becomes so anxious that she turns to stone, metaphorically in this case. And yeah, it's really interesting because everyone assumes that she's just this regal goddess type of really keeps to herself kind of girl, and since she's so pretty and hot and everything, everyone finds her to be super popular, but in reality she's just immensely lonely. And because of that, she wants to make 100 friends before the end of high school. And she doesn't know how she'll do it, but throughout the story, we're going to see her journey to do so. And in this first volume, we get introduced to her classmates, the more important ones. We get introduced to the secondary character, or the second main character, who is kind of like the one where the audience can self-insert. Well, it's a boy, so I guess only men can self-insert, but he's functionally the character where us as individuals are going to identify and have help Komi-san through her journey to get 100 friends. And yeah, it's really fun. The plot line in these first 2 volumes is the plot is, how can we get Komi 100 friends? And each plot point, or each chapter, either expands on her relationship with an established character, introduces a new character, or has a situation where a character interacts with her. And that's basically it for all of the chapters, obviously. And they're all really like kind of short stories. I guess they all function as individual days, but they feel more like disjointed, linearly organized, separate stories that are all rather short. So it's a collection of short stories that are all the same topic, maybe, or they're like vignettes. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but basically, you could read each one individually and it wouldn't affect you. Or you could read some of them out of order and you would still be able to understand what's going on. If you try to read Naruto out of order, you'd not really know anything, right? So that's not a problem in this book or in these books. And that's what I'm trying to get at. And yeah, that's basically it. I think the plotline was well executed, even if it's rather simple. And I honestly really thought that it was really great. There's a lot of moments where you're like, wow, I remember when that was me, or when I had a similar situation happen to me as a teenager in middle school or in high school. And you really like connect and empathize with Komi. And just because Komi is such a like relevant character to like today's society, with the whole rise of the internet and the way that we communicate being so like fundamentally different from how our parents and older people communicate, and how IRL or like physical interaction is so much more difficult for most of us in our daily lives than it really used to be. Or maybe it's not more difficult, it's just more noticeable because we can easily interact with everyone through our phones. But as soon as we start to talk to someone physically, all bets are off, and we might do well or do bad, you know? And so she's a very relatable character in that sense. And because she was essentially friendless until high school, we get a lot of those like coming of age moments where like, okay, we finally are starting to have friendships with people that are meaningful and that are not supported by your parents being involved, or by your parents being friends with our friends' parents, if that makes sense. Basically, independence adds a whole new layer to the friendship because now you can go out and stuff. And that's basically what the second volume focuses on, is Komi and her friends. I think she has 4 at this point. Going out and doing activities that Komi has never been able to do because she's never had friends. And you get a lot of this like, oh, this is me in like 6th grade or 7th grade when I got a flip phone, when I finally was able to go out to a restaurant with a friend, where it wasn't like, Mom, take us to McDonald's, or like something like that. Or when the first time I went to the mall with my friends, you know, that sort of like nostalgic, really amazing moments that we forget that we had in middle school, because middle school is that like time period where we want to completely forget about everything that happened because it was so cringy. And yeah, it's I don't know, it really just like touched me and like reminded me of things that like I hadn't remembered in a long while. And I thought it was really like interesting because you start reading it and it's just gonna be like this really soft, gentle, relaxing story, which it is, but it also sort of hits deeper than you really anticipated it would, or at least to me it did. You know, mileage may vary with everyone. And yeah, so that's it for the plot line. The characters are probably the best part. They're all freaking weird. It's really funny. Like, they all kind of have like an archetype. Like the character I mentioned earlier, Tadano, is like the ordinary, average, normal guy. There's always one of those in like manga and stuff. It's like that one normal person that sees everything around him and is like, what the hell is going on? Why are these people like this? That's him. Komi, obviously immensely anxious. She has this like cute obsession with cats, and just her expressions are really varied and like, well, they're not really varied, but they're so like cute, and you just can't get enough of it. So the art really comes in and really helps the characters grow and become lifelike. There's Najime, who is like Najimi, who is like the trap character. Like you don't know if it's a boy or a girl, and they're like super hyper extroverted social butterflies. And it's kind of like that one character in like Western media that's like the one person that has all the cousins that are able to help with everything that needs to be done. Like it's usually like a Hispanic character that has like all the cousins, and like, yeah, I can call my cousin Ricky, who does the electricity stuff, and my cousin Johnny, who does this, and you know, all that. Or like if you guys ever watched Lost Girl, it's like what is she, like Romanian girl that has all the family members that all like are able to help her out in some way. It's kind of like that character. And there's also Naka Naka, who's like the Chinubi character. They're still like stuck in like being cool and edgy and stuff. And they kind of remind me of like Megumin. There's Agani or Aragi. I think it's Aragi. Agari, sorry. Who is this like Velma-esque character from Scooby-Doo. Like, she's a cute, like, chubby-esque type of cute girl that's librarian-like, who is rather soft-spoken and stuff because she's super anxious with people, in a different way than Komi. But there's a lot of kinship there. And because everyone thinks of Komi as a hyper-popular, regal character, this one specifically, Agari, is like, oh no, we can't be friends, I'll be your pet instead. And it's really like funky and funny, and I think it's rather interesting. And then, well, who else is there? There's like Yamai, who is like this tsundere character. And there's another character that was there for like a little bit, who's like this like super competitive person, but I can't remember her name. But yeah. And the characters are super, super interesting. They all have their own little quirks, but they all kind of fall under general, you know, tropey, cliche kind of characters. But they're just so, like, fun and interesting through the lens of the ordinary guy and Komi, because this is, like, told in, like, a third-person perspective, and it switches between Komi's perspective and Tadano's character perspective, sorry. And they switch off, and then they see everyone else, and it's all very like funny and funky and like odd, and it's really like enjoyable to read. So that's the characters. World building is basically non-existent. There's some stuff about how the school works and why there's so many weird, funky people, but it's not really explained at all. I assume that it's going to be explained in later volumes, but essentially no world building. It's just regular Japan, which is, since it's a slice of life book, I can understand where that's coming from, and so I'm not really going to judge it harshly for not having world building. And yeah, the art is rather amazing. It's not the most high quality, most realistic art, and it's not hyper detailed, but what it does amazingly, and what it does well is exactly what's important to the story. So it focuses on character expressions and, you know, like action stuff, like the way they move. And it's just done so amazingly that you can look at a panel and see what they're feeling without really having to read the text. And it's so well done, and it fits so well with what they're trying to do that it just like makes the reading experience so much better. And yeah, there's no fan service. Oh, well, I guess there is slightly. There's a couple Ahyago faces or Ahego faces, but they're in relation to non-sexual things. So I don't know if that really counts. They're just kind of funky. I think it's funny, but there's nothing explicit or particularly sexual anywhere in this in these two volumes. So there's no fan service. And that's basically it. My rating is going to be a 4 out of 5 for both of them. So I think a 4 out of 5 is a good middle ground. I think it's definitely above average, and it's very enjoyable. But there are still some elements that could have been done better. So we'll leave it at that. A 4 out of 5. Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Let's try to get the video to 10 likes. That'd be super great. And let's try to get the channel up to 50 subscribers. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you guys very much. See you later.